if you die, if you're a Christian and you die a non-believer, you're still going to heaven?
Well, first we need to ask ourselves, what is death?
Okay, here you go. That's dope.
Okay,
Now we got a
okay.
2P.
Let me.
I mean, death in the physical form is real, yes.
Is it?
In the physical form, yes. In this body, it is.
Maybe.
Explain, elaborate. We're on
Right.
page.
So I've talked to you before.
Yeah,
You
right?
have.
to.
You
Yeah.
have.
So what I would say first of all is this idea of God, right? But what we forget is people have free will.
Mhm.
So people have the ability to make decisions,
Mhm.
right? So if not, we'd be robots.
Mhm.
So God gives us, and it's this idea of God, right? It's what we call God. So the idea of God being a specific entity was attributed about 500 AD in the Tribune of Nicaea. You can look it up, and that's when they like tried to institutionalize God. But before, it was very much like nature driven. It was like connecting with the earth, connecting with like you're talking about animals. Like we are one with this world. Like we are connected. We're part of it. So when you look at free will, it's like we have the choice to decide what we do with our lives up to a certain extent, and you can't blame another entity for that decision making. So I liked what you said, the idea of like the constant battle between good and evil, and I think that is cyclical, right? Like it's like the yin yang, right? Like the two fish that are consistently chasing each other. It's a forever pattern that won't stop. So what I would tell people is, when you look at these scenarios in life where you look at injustice and you're like, wow, who would allow this? We have this nature in us, just like we have this good side in us. We also have this terrible side in us. Like we all have a depraved side. When we like stop and we actually look at ourselves and we're honest, there's a lot of the stuff that we have inside where we're like, damn, I'm lacking. And we can't attribute that to a higher power, because we can control, we can manage, we can transmit discipline in our daily life. Whereas, for example, like we've talked in the past, and it's like there's habits and behaviors that we used to have that we've realized, like, that's my old nature. Like that is no longer in place for me to do. Why? Because I have the knowledge and the awareness and the spiritual, I would say, insight to see these things and be like, no, they're bad. But if you go to Africa, there's villages where there's these guys called jaguars, and they basically take the virginity of every woman in the village. That's part of their job description, and all of them have HIV. So all these little girls end up with HIV, but it's part of tradition. They don't know any better, right? Like you can say that, you can debate that they know any better, but you're also dealing with so many factors and nuances that's like, it's having like absolutes, like this is what it is. We don't know, bro. We don't know what's 10 feet under the ground from us right now. Like we don't know shit. And that we try to define God. It's a little complicated.
Luke, what is can you describe good and bad? Do you think the good and bad is do you think that bad is human created? Do you think that in our minds we've said, you know what, bad is this, good is this? If good was slaughtering babies and it was normalized, do you think that we'd...
So then you need to, and I'll leave after this.
No, of course.
It's the idea of, well, the judge and the witness can't be the same person, right? So for example, you look at Christians and they say, oh, well, what you're doing is wrong, okay? Or what you're doing is bad, but based on what standard? Based on the standard of what you believe in. So therefore, there is no absolute standard, because nobody's absolutely correct. Now, we can all come to a unison agreement on certain things, like, hey, don't self-impose yourself on other people, don't self-impose yourself on animals, take care of the planet, don't lie, be a good person. We understand these principles, but to say like, this is and this isn't, there's so many variables at play, in my opinion, that, for example, like killing is bad. Okay, perfect. But we can agree that it's wrong, but is it justified in certain scenarios? Potentially. But some people would be like, no, it's not justified. And that's when you kind of go into like this moral debate of like inconsistency, where I don't think there's an absolute. No, for sure. No.
You don't think so? You think that, sorry, I know this is the podcast of Luca, but this is another question for you, Luke.
No, I love this guy. So
We're like
we're partners.
yeah, we're about to go to the moon together.
Yeah, dude. So, and he has a great opinion on this. So if we're on this topic, honestly, he's better versed than
But
I.
we've talked about it so long.
Yeah.
Like, so we've talked about it all the time.
Did you I know you research a lot into these sort of things, and I know that you're very, very well spoken, and you know what you're talking about. Do you?
Do I?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I mean, if someone can talk for minutes and minutes on minutes about a thing and not waffle, and it makes sense in my head, of course. But anyway, I'm gonna stop the charming, and I'm gonna stop all that. Do you, after all this research, and we can say that you're more researched than an average bloke, would you say that good is still the laws of, for example, Christianity? Good is being selfless, being helpful, not like. So what's good? What is genuinely good in your opinion? What do you do that makes you feel like I've done something good today?
I don't. I just live my life, right? So we have this idea that doing, like, serving other people is like the ultimate purpose and goal. Why? Well, it feels good, sure, but that's the idea of reciprocity, right? That's an animalistic instinct, right? Animals emit reciprocity. That's why we have that instinct in us of reciprocity. If you look at innate human traits, reciprocity is part of what we do, right? Somebody does something for you, you do it in return. But attributing morality to it isn't necessarily what I would consider yes or no, because here's the thing. What is Christianity, right? So if you look at a Judeo-Christian perspective, how it was taught 2,500 years ago and what it is today is completely deviated, right? You need to look into the King James Bible and understand that, hey, potentially there was books in there that were written that have been left out. In translation, right? Automatically in translation, for example, if Luca was trying to transmit this message in German, there would be miscommunication, which means the message wouldn't be transmitted perfectly. Why? So what makes you think that English in the 1600s is the same English that we have today, or that it wasn't skewed? So we look at all these things, that propaganda, all this stuff. What makes you think that that isn't included? So what I would tell people is live your life. I mean, Luca's seen a transition where I used to be very like dogmatic about a lot of stuff.
Super dogmatic. And he was like he was like the best Christian I ever met. Like in terms of somebody who followed the book, like I really looked up to him in terms of like, I had never met somebody my age who had followed the book so well and like knew it like the back of his hand. Like he knows this thing, like he knows his fucking body, you know what I mean? And so he's transitioned like to obviously have faith, but now it's like a different vertical, which he can explain further.
So what I would say is, and this is something I learned with Joffrey, is morality is not absolute. Why? Because in order for it to be absolute, it needs to apply consistently throughout all history to every single individual always. So you ask a single question, right? Just the institutional, like, why would a person try to institutionalize God? If God is worth worshiping, right? This entity, this energy, whatever you want to call it, that we can't explain, you want to attribute it to God. If you can explain God, then is he worth worshiping? If God fits in your 1 pound gray matter, is he worth it? To me, no. I want to be in awe of being able to go to New Zealand. Like I was talking to him, like, we're going to Italy, we're doing the whole nine. I want to be able to sit in nature and be like, wow, like I can bask in the greatness and the beauty of this. Like we can all agree, I don't know, not everybody, but there's a lot of intelligent design. Like there's a lot of intelligent design.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever it's attributed to or what it's attributed to, I don't know. But I love basking in the freedom that I can enjoy life at its fullest. And I like certain aspects. Like there's certain things about Islam that I love, but there's certain things that I don't like, right? There's certain things about Christianity that I love. There's certain things that I don't like. I'll give you an example. Look at the structure of a church, okay? It's structured literally like a courtroom of a king, right? And in the front of the courtroom, you have the altar. So you have this authoritarian monarchy that was established because, hey, you know what? The king can be wrong back in the 1600s, but you know who can never be questioned? God. So let's use God as a weapon. So now you need an access point to God, aka the church, instead of you being able to just, like you were doing today, literally chilling in the sun, just enjoying life.
Right.
Like, how much spiritual does it, bro? Do you understand? That's so spiritual.
Right.
Connected in one, in unison. It's so beautiful.
Right.
So that would be my opinion on that. But I'll let you guys continue.
Thank
I love
you.
this guy. This guy,
Thank you.
I'm telling you, this kid's on his journey.
This
and
is this guy.
Yeah, he's
I like
crushing
this
it.
guy too.
Yeah, man.